Tensions in Eastern Europe are once again on the rise. Amid growing uncertainty and persistent threats, NATO continues to move troops and military equipment into the region. Each convoy, each deployment is scrutinized by analysts and governments around the world. And today, all eyes are on a series of massive U.S. Army trucks being loaded and prepared for deployment to the eastern flank of Europe. But what is the mission of these giant vehicles, and why does their movement send ripples across international politics? To understand this, we must look deeper into the machines themselves, their unique role, and the broader context of NATO's preparations. Eastern Europe has become one of the most volatile regions in global geopolitics. Since the outbreak of the war in Ukraine, NATO has reinforced its eastern borders more than at any other time since the Cold War. Countries like Poland, Romania, and the Baltic states now stand at the front line of NATO's defense posture. Natural obstacles like wide rivers, marshes, and forests dominate the terrain. These features, which once served as natural defenses, now present logistical challenges. If an armored brigade cannot cross a river, it cannot fight. This is why every deployment, every truck, every piece of equipment carries significance far beyond its appearance. The vehicle at the center of today's story is the HEMTT, the Heavy Expanded Mobility Tactical Truck. This 8-wheeled behemoth is the backbone of U.S. Army logistics. Built for heavy loads and extreme durability, the HEMTT can carry fuel, ammunition, equipment, and even specialized systems that make the difference between success and failure on the battlefield. Weighing dozens of tons, powered by a massive diesel engine, and designed to tackle broken roads and rough terrain, the HEMTT is more than a truck. It is a lifeline for modern armies. Wherever the U.S. Army goes, HEMTTs follow, ensuring that frontline troops remain supplied, mobile, and ready to fight. Yet in this deployment, the HEMTT is not just carrying fuel or ammunition, it is transporting something extraordinary, the Improved Ribbon Bridge, or IRB. This system consists of modular floating sections, each one launched from a truck into the water. Alone, a single section may not seem like much, but when engineers connect multiple sections together, they form a floating bridge strong enough to carry an entire armored column across a river. In just hours, what was once an impassable obstacle becomes a highway of steel and floating pontoons. Abrams tanks, Bradley fighting vehicles, and heavy artillery can roll across as if the river was never there. It is a breathtaking demonstration of engineering and military planning. The responsibility for deploying these bridges falls to the U.S. Army's 7th Engineer Brigade. They are the unsung heroes of modern warfare soldiers who rarely make headlines but whose work decides the outcome of campaigns. While infantry and armored units engage in combat, engineers build the pathways that make those operations possible. They repair roads, lay down bridges, construct defenses, and ensure that mobility is never lost. Without them, the most powerful tanks in the world would be trapped on one side of a river, unable to fight. As military professionals often say, amateurs talk about strategy, professionals talk about logistics. The work of the engineer is proof of this truth. The loading of these HEMTT trucks is part of Saber Guardian 25, a massive NATO exercise spanning multiple countries and involving tens of thousands of soldiers. The exercise simulates real-world scenarios, armored brigades advancing across Eastern Europe, rivers needing to be crossed under enemy threat, and multinational forces coordinating in real time. For NATO, Saber Guardian is more than a drill. It is a political statement. It demonstrates interoperability between nations, the speed of mobilization, and the ability to project power across the continent. Each pontoon bridge laid, each convoy deployed, is a reminder that NATO is preparing for every possible contingency. To the untrained eye, these trucks may look like nothing more than oversized transport vehicles, but their presence sends a message far louder than words. To Russia, it is a warning. NATO is ready, NATO can move, and NATO can overcome natural obstacles. To allied nations in Eastern Europe, It is reassurance. You will not stand alone. These vehicles symbolize NATO's ability to not only fight, but to move, to adapt, and to sustain operations in the face of adversity. Mobility is power, and in modern conflict, it may be the decisive factor. Throughout history, the ability to move armies has defined victory. In World War II, the Allies used pontoon bridges to cross the Rhine River and drive into Germany. In Korea, rapid bridge construction allowed United Nations forces to maneuver against communist offensives. Even in Iraq and Afghanistan, logistics convoys often supported by trucks like the HEMTT determine the tempo of operations. The lesson is clear. Firepower alone cannot win wars. Without supply, without bridges, without logistics, armies grind to a halt. What we are seeing here in Eastern Europe is the continuation of that timeless principle. As we watch these massive HEMTT trucks being loaded, we must remember this is more than just an exercise. It is part of a wider picture, a world on edge. From Eastern Europe to the Pacific, from the Arctic to the Middle East, global tensions are rising. Each deployment, each exercise is both preparation and signal preparation for conflict, and a signal to adversaries that the West is not backing down. In the end, the image of these HEMTT trucks and their floating bridge systems captures the essence of our times. Strength, preparation, and uncertainty all bound together in a single moment. Are these trucks being deployed purely for training, or are they a rehearsal for something more? Only time will tell. But one thing is certain, in a world where mobility equals survival, the HEMTT and the engineers who operate them will continue to play a decisive role in the defense of Europe.
Hello.